The sirens didn't sound during the fire on Maui. Sirens didn't sound during the Marshall fire here. Boulder County leaders told us it's because those sirens weren't programmed for wildfires. Tonight, our Steve Staker starts us off with a look at our capabilities in Colorado, including talking sirens.
As Maui begins the long road to recovery, questions burn as hot as the fire that destroyed a historic town and killed more than 100 people so far. Residents there want to know why Maui didn't blow sirens to warn people to get out. The reason given, those sirens tell people to seek higher ground in a tsunami, which would have moved people toward the flames.
It affects all of the other thinking about other systems across the U.S.
Similar questions lingered after the Marshall fire in Boulder County. Boulder has sirens that will actually talk to you and communicate what the threat is. But the sirens in Superior and Louisville weren't programmed to communicate wildfire at the time, so they weren't used. Boulder's emergency manager told me today those sirens are reprogrammed now.
A person can be trained to respond to a tone because that tone represents a signal that tells them a specific action to take.
Jeanette Sutton is a social scientist who studies alerts and warnings at the University of Albany. She says sirens without that messaging really can only be used for a single purpose. Around here, they're mostly for tornadoes. They tell you to head to the basement.
When there's an expectation that a tone represents multiple actions, then you have a problem, because a warning is supposed to tell people what the hazard is, in addition to what they're supposed to do to protect themselves.
We asked around today and found out that Lakewood, Morrison, and Wheat Ridge also have sirens that can talk. Denver doesn't. Aurora has the capability, but it doesn't use it anymore, and there's a good reason.
If I had to guess, probably 20 years ago, they stopped doing that, and that was based on some observation of, since they are predominantly associated with tornadoes, they observed folks would come out of shelter, come out of their homes to hear what the siren was saying.
Don't want to do that during a tornado. On Aurora's website, it says if you hear the siren, you should head inside and then try to seek information about what's happening. So they're likely not going to use it if they don't want you to stay in your house. The key here is you shouldn't rely solely on one alert to know what's going on. So I will say it again, like I've said it so many times. Sign up for your area's emergency alerts and make sure that the emergency alerting capabilities on your phone is turned on, and be alert when you hear a siren to try to figure out what's going on in that situation. You know, get yourself to safety, but then try to figure out what's going on.
I never, for the life of me, Steve, thought about the idea that if sirens talk to people, that folks might stay outside or go outside to hear them and be in more danger.
You got to keep in mind that sirens are meant to alert people who are outside. They are not supposed to penetrate walls. And so if you have that extra sound, somebody might say like, ooh, that might be some important information I need to hear, and they might try to head outside. Though in certain situations, like if it's a wildfire, they want you to be outside so that you can get moving away from your home in a case like that. But it's just really one of those things where you have to just be alert in these situations and look for as much information as you possibly can.
From those multiple sources, you always say,
like
build that toolkit of multiple sources that are going to alert you in an emergency. Yep. Steve, thank you.